Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I'm just playing a little background music, but the show is really live already. We here. I pulled a little funny one on you. Go ahead and let your people know. Find your people. Okay. Well, how did that just stop so abruptly?
Well, that happens when you control the cameras. Not the cameras, the audio.
It does. Hey, everybody. It's the Brown South Girls podcast. We are so happy to be with you this holiday weekend.
Yeah. It is a holiday. It might be a little rainy outside, but it is holiday weekend.
Well, it may not be rainy where they're at.
True. It's rainy where we are.
Very. And it has been like all weekend, like nonstop. It has not let up. It seems like there was a conspiracy over the Carolinas, in both Carolinas.
Right. Like, why they do that at?
I don't know. Clearly, the Carolinas.
Clearly here.
Yeah. But you know what? We hope you guys are here for a very good conversation, because we really want to have a good conversation. I know that you're seeing something a little different here. They're seeing something different.
I know, y'all, we did it again.
Yes, we have. We happen to be in the same place
at the same time.
Right. I'm at her place, y'all.
Yeah.
I had to come visit my daughter for the holiday. My son and I, we said, you know what? We're going to get on the road and we're going to visit old KJ.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have y'all. I was so excited and so surprised.
She was, because she thought about thinking that, she was like, why don't you guys think about coming Memorial Day weekend? And I was like, okay, well, I'll talk to your brother. And little did I know, I got so busy throughout the week that I didn't exactly confirm.
Right. And I was like, well, I don't think they coming no more, but it's fine. I'll just be here at the house. I'm glad I was.
Yes, I'm glad she was too, because not only did I not confirm, but we got here early in the morning.
Yes, because I was in my second round of sleep because I, had the day off. So listen, I was completely surprised, but it was a great surprise.
It was. We've been having a really good weekend. And although it has been raining, I hope that you all are taking advantage of doing what you can do with each other and just share some good family time. Just share that love that you have among each other. There's a lot of indoor things that you can do. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you cooked some good indoor food. And if you happen to have a covered patio or carport or something like that, maybe you still took your grill out. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
But I know we had some good food.
Tell them,
like if y'all had smell-o-vision or smellernet, let me tell y'all something. We had some good food.
I'm sorry. Did you say smellernet?
Yeah, instead of internet, because we might not be on people's television, but smellernet. Smell-fi instead of Wi-Fi.
All right. Before you get off track, because you can get off track.
I can, but I ran track. I know how to get off, but I can get back on. I can. This is why we don't be in the same place.
This is the same reason why we do not do the show at the same time in the same location. Because, well, we do it at the same time, but why we don't do it at the same location? Because we start cutting up. There's something about being this close to each other. We just start making jokes, and the jokes don't stop.
They don't.
But you were saying if the people had smellernet or smell-o-vision, why were you saying that?
Because y'all listen, my mama made some curry today. And that thing touched my spirit. I almost didn't make it down here for the show because it was one of them meals where you need a nap. So I had to do a couple laps around and go up and down the steps to make sure I got my energy back up, because I ate good. So I hope everybody else ate something you love. It didn't have to be anything special, anything particular, just something you love, something you enjoy, and it was good.
I agree. And we did have some good ribs. We there was a guy who was grilling out and they were selling ribs, and we gave him a name.
We did. What was his name?
We called him Uncle Leroy.
That's him.
He said, y'all want some ribs? And we could smell them. And we was like, yes, sir. I said, you smell like you out here with your slides on and sandals and socks.
And then he said, in a white linen suit, listen to Frankie Beverly and Maze. And that is when I knew those ribs was going to be good.
And they were.
They were.
They really were.
We might have a few more in there.
We got a few more, but I want to eat them. But y'all, we're going to get into the show. Like we said, we're just having a whole lot of fun here. I love spending time with my daughter. I love doing this podcast. The Brown South Girls is a podcast where we want to have conversations that we feel like we should be having and tackle subjects that we should actually tackle. Yeah, we like to have fun because we only live once. You got to do that. But we need to be having serious conversations as well. And today we've got a conversation that we want to have with you guys. If you saw the title, it is Shades of Truth, Unveiling Colorism within the Black community. And why don't you tell people why you felt like this was a topic that you wanted to talk about?
Because I feel like it is a topic that comes up a lot. It's a constant kind of battle of, how colorism works, the spectrum of colorism, who's benefiting from colorism. And I also notice it's affecting a lot of brown girls. And being a brown girl myself, I felt like, well, since I'm one of the brown South girls, why don't the two brown South girls get together and have a conversation about it? So, yeah.
All right. I mean, I agree with you because it's a very touchy topic.
It is.
But I feel like it's an important topic. And so many people can have their opinions,
right?
But every individual is going to have their own experience. So I feel like we can begin with sharing our own experience. And we got a message up here right from us. We want to let you guys know that during the broadcast, you can support our page by sending stars, digital gifts, and help us earn some money.
Yeah.
Help us do that. That's a part of it as well. We didn't ask for it, but it's somehow the algorithm,
right.
Meta decided to put that up for us.
Yeah, because I didn't type that.
They Meta sending y'all a little message. They say, pay the girls.
Right.
Pay the girls. All right. Let the people know. Let's just start it off. I'll let you go ahead and talk about a particular experience that you may have had, because colorism has a lot to do with different discriminations. But I won't go too much into what I want to speak about yet.
Okay.
We'll just get the conversation going. And as people come in and they want to share their experiences and share their comments, we'll just kind of keep the conversation going from there.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I mean, that's what we do.
Do it.
Yes. So, I mean, when it comes to colorism, I personally I feel like I've experienced it in different ways. I know I haven't really had too many traumas necessarily tied to colorism, or at least I haven't been able to acknowledge them, I would say. But I will say that I have noticed a lot of colorism just in my life based on the people around me. And this could be getting into a deeper conversation, but I'm just put it out there. When I do experience colorism, it has a lot to do with the way that I look to people and a combination of my hair texture. And it's like, oh, she can't just be like, oh, you look different. Well, where are you from? Well, how's your hair like that? And it's like, okay. And then I have also experienced some instances in colorism where it's like people don't understand how I got to where I am, and they didn't get to where I am. Like they're not getting the same recognition that I'm getting, and they feel like they should be.
Wait a minute. You're saying people. So if we're talking about colorism, be a little bit more specific, because I want to understand exactly what you're saying here.
You're right. It was a light-skinned girl, and she was really upset with me and just had this preconceived idea in her head that she did not like me simply because, I was at work. I have good work ethic doing my job, but she felt like because she was light-skinned that she should have been getting the same recognition I was getting when I was working for mine.
And that is the issue. Those are some of the issues. I want to read here because I always do a little bit of research, as you guys know, because even though I know that I have my own experiences and how I feel about a certain topic, I do a little digging, and I want to give you guys some information and make sure that we are on track.
Right.
So colorism refers to the discrimination or prejudice based on skin color or tones or shades of skin within the same racial or ethnic group. All right. This often occurs within communities of color where individuals are lighter skin tones and are favored or privileged over those with darker skin tones. So colorism is a form of bias, right? And it is really prevalent in our community. It's, we kind of want to base things and base our values on skin tone. We all know that to be true. And we want to kind of have a hierarchy related to that. So when you said that you had the experience where the light-skinned girl felt like, well, why is she being treated this way? And why is she getting somewhat of a privilege when she knew that she operated within a light-skinned privilege?
Yeah.
Now, I got to tell you something. Light skin privilege exists. And oftentimes, when I hear people having discussions on colorism, and a lot of times light skinned people start getting into talking about some of the experiences that they've had where they've actually been bullied, which is different from colorism. Like, because everyone kind of deals with some type of bullying in their life, whether
Right.
you're too short or you're too skinny, you're fat or overweight, that's happening in life. They might, yes, there have been times I, as a light skinned person, have been called, light, bright, yellow, red bone, but that is not colorism. I can, just because I have been bullied in some ways by some people, this does not mean that I have not actually benefited from what colorism is. Because I know that I have been able to get through doors and walk through doors based on the color of my skin.
Yeah.
Now, it has also been up to me to make sure that I have value for myself and that I have a certain work ethic. And I've always been that way, because when you get through the door, what are you going to do after you get through there? So
Right.
I just never relied on that. And is it fair? Of course it's not fair. Of course it's not fair. I want to tell you a story from when I realized. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that it was colorism. But as I reflect back to the incident, I now know as an adult, because now that I know what was going on, that it actually was colorism. But I remember a time growing up, and I had to be like maybe five, maybe six. And growing up in the South, and this is in the 70s. So there was a particular restaurant in this neighborhood where Black kids can go into. But I didn't know this, and I'm living in a time where I'm really not so well aware of color. And I might want to backtrack a little bit. And how you could probably say, well, how are you not aware of color? Because I just wasn't. And I'll tell you why. Because I grew up in a household where there were just various different shades of us.
Yeah.
I even have a sister who is lighter than I am, and she has green eyes. And the color spectrum just changed. From that lightest of light with fine hair to a dark and a very dark, all in my family. So I never, like, I could see that we had different skin tones, but I didn't know that that meant something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that we were different. I didn't know that had anything to do with how it would be treated at this point. So long story short, this particular day, some of my friends and I, we were walking by the place, and I wanted to go in, and I wanted to go in there because it was a little diner, and they had like these stool tops at the lunch counter, and you could spin around on them. And I'm a kid.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go spin around on it. Now, I'm not going in there to buy anything or anything. Remember, 5 or 6 years old, and I'd been in there before, so I knew that you could do this, right? Why they let me go in there and do it, I don't know. I do remember it was white men who were in there. They see me come in there. I get on the stool, I spin around, and I go out, and they never bother me. So this particular day, I'm with my friends. I'm like, let's go inside. And it's like, Tanya, you can't go in there. And they said it like with such a fear, like I couldn't understand. It was like, you can't go in there. And I'm like, yes, you can. I was like, you can go in there. It was like, no, you can't. You don't go in there. And I just went in. I spinned on the thing. Nobody said anything to me. I walked out, and it was like, what were you doing in there? So long story short here, my particular friends, who I am still friends with today, is dark skinned. So I didn't know that they weren't letting Black kids in there. And I didn't know that I only got to go in there because I was light skinned. And that was my first incident of colorism that I didn't know was colorism, but I know that it exists.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you grow up in a family and there's like different shades within your family, how do you know?
Exactly. And that actually brings me to a really good question. Because I was listening to someone actually speak on this exact topic, and she spoke about how she first learned to see beauty and first learned to see people. And so my question is, how did you, or who did you first learn to see beauty through their eyes that allowed you to not realize or not think, oh, I'm light skinned, so I have different privileges, and like, oh, we're all different, so we can't do the same thing. Like, whose eyes did you first learn to see people through?
Apparently, I learned that in my home. It had to be my mother. We grew up, like I said, we were various shades of blackness in my home. So I didn't know.
Right. And I mean, I feel the same way because I definitely feel like I learned that through you. And I mean, just you never really, I knew you were lighter than me, but like you said, I didn't know what that meant. And I mean, people would ask me, like, is your mom white? I'm like,
Oh my
okay,
goodness.
I know I'm black. I look at my mama, I know she's black. Why do you not know she's black? Like in my mind,
Right.
it didn't make sense. It didn't connect. I just was like, we're black. But like you said, I also have a lot of family members that are just on the different color spectrum of being black.
Right.
And so I wasn't even fully aware. And then back to what I was saying, you just have an appreciation for so many different people and so many different complexions. Like you taught us to love the brownness in anybody's complexion. So I'm like, okay, you're like, I just see another black person. You're beautiful.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
I'm not going to give anybody any privileges or feel like I have any privileges based off of my skin tone, but I can appreciate all of them.
I understand. Listen, I understand. That's what I know. But we have to realize that it does exist.
It does.
Because, and I can continue like throughout my life, throughout my work career, and even in today's time, we've got to be honest that we still see a lot of colorism going on. But before I shaved my head bald, for instance, and I had dreadlocks. And it's a stereotypical thing about dreadlocks. And there are a lot of places that will not accept dreadlocks in a workplace. Now, I never had a problem or issue with it in a workplace.
Right.
It never came up. In fact, people always admire them. I always had people who liked them. And not so much that that mattered to me, but I just want to emphasize that they looked at me differently, and it had to be because of the color of my skin. Because a person who it would be darker than I am, they'll look at them like, you know, they're whatever, like they might be dirty. All of the things that I hear a lot of people associate dreadlocks with, I did not experience that. I didn't. And that has a lot to do with colorism. But it also, I just want to say this, I'm able to admit that. It bothers me as a light-skinned person when I hear other people say that. Well, I don't think it's colorism. I think that, well, you know, just to get ready to change the subject just a little, not change the subject, but the dynamic of the conversation. But like sometimes, you know, that there will be Black people who say, well, they're only date light skin or whatever the case may be. And people want to say they don't think that's colorism, that is preference.
Right.
What is your thought on that? Because
you know, I do, and I can see that being rooted in colorism for sure, because you have to think about how society portrays colorism and how society portrays our Blackness. And so if you grow up, whether it's direct or indirect, it's being ingrained in your mind that light skin is better, darker skin is not. And so if you grow up and say, you know what, I'll only date light skins, that's my preference because I find them more attractive or whatever the reason is. Well, why is that? Because if you look at media, if you look at television, just all the stuff that we had growing up, it was always more fair skin that was presented to us as beautiful.
And I want to say this, colorism can manifest itself in various ways, including unequal treatment, differential opportunities, and biases perceptions. It affects many aspects of life, such as employment, education, relationship, media, like you were just talking about, media representation, beauty standards.
Yes.
Lighter skinned individuals will be more likely to be perceived or preference. You know, they get some preferential treatment.
Yeah.
They get better job opportunities. They get positive portrayals of themselves in media, while darker skinned individuals face a different prejudice and different stereotypes, and they get limited opportunities. And when I hear us within our culture, like subscribing to that, it hurts me.
Right.
It hurts me. It hurts me a lot, because I got to tell you something. if I'm not looking in a mirror or well, really, because none of us can see ourselves. So if I'm not looking in a mirror, it's not like I feel light skin. I'm not
Right.
thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm seeing a person and I watch this video, because there's so much stuff on colorism out
Yeah.
here, and I see young people and dark skinned girls who are so traumatized and so
Mm-hmm.
hurt by some of these beauty standards that are falsely set out here. I
Right.
wish they could see their beauty. Like, I want to tell them so bad how beautiful they are,
Mm-hmm.
and they're damaged because they are being overlooked. The guys are preferencing light-skinned girls.
Mm-hmm. You know, now that you say that, I see it. Our minds have very funny ways of remember things, and I remember things. But I definitely, in my younger days, had a guy actually tell me that I was the darkest girl he had ever thought was pretty, and I was like, "Do you think that's a compliment?" Like,
Exactly.
huh? Because granted, at that point, like I said, I grew up being comfortable in my skin and in my brownness, so I didn't need that validation.
Mhm.
But it made me feel bad for other girls. Like, not that you this one person had to be attracted to them, but the fact that people really think like that.
People think like
Like,
that.
oh, like what got you to this point? Like, you didn't see that I was brown the first time. You just decided, oh well, maybe she might be all right. Like,
Wow.
it was crazy. I was baffled.
And that is a common thing that a lot of girls of a brown, a medium brown, and darker
Mhm.
skin tones, they're hearing like, oh, she's pretty for a dark girl.
Yes. Like, why can't she just be pretty?
Like,
Why?
really? That should not be coming out of our mouths. Like,
Mm-mm.
what are you saying? And for me, like, I always saw, think about this. And like in the 90s, like
Mhm.
some of the 90s models and supermodels. Now, obviously, yes, in media, we see that light skin is getting preferential treatment and getting a lot of jobs. But I want
Right.
to say this. Okay, Naomi Campbell, she's a supermodel.
Mhm.
Okay. There were a lot of models back then, like Rashamba, like Tamiko Frazier, who are
Mhm.
just beautiful Black women. So I always saw that beauty in people. Like, I don't know, before I could say like a person is beautiful just because they're light skinned, I have to, they really have to be beautiful. You could be ugly to me with your attitude.
Right.
And that can sound corny, but that really is it.
Mhm.
And I know that this thing is about more than just skin color, because like I said, light skinned people can be bullied.
Right.
You can be bullied. You can be called different names, but that's just not the same, and it's not accepting. And I don't like when they bring that into the conversation, because I think they are not really validating the fact that this exists,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So I want to ask you guys out here, where do you find colorism showing up in your life, or where do you remember having to deal with colorism like for the first time in your life?
Mhm.
And how does that make you feel today? How did it make you feel then, and how did it make you, make it you feel today? I want to know that. You guys can go ahead and see some comments that will be coming through, but this is just crazy.
It really is. And you know, it's just it's just crazy because we, especially since we like to say, oh, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but what are you holding? Like, when it comes down to colorism and you just not under, like, what are you holding on to
Mhm.
that's not allowing you to see beauty just as beauty?
Right. And let's be honest too. We have to deal with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
We know where it stems from.
Mm-hmm.
It stems from where? It stems from colonialism.
Yep.
It goes all the way back to history. It goes back to slavery. It goes back to that impact of, trying to live up to that Eurocentric beauty standard. And we cannot have that. We shouldn't be adopting that into our culture.
Right.
We shouldn't.
But I mean, it was a way of them, getting us to separate and not band together and be as strong and united as we could be. And we just never let it go.
We haven't. But guess what? We can let it go.
We can.
We should let it go.
We should.
All right. I see we got Miss Tori in the building here. She says, what Miss Tori talking
She
about?
says, loving y'all in the same space. Thank you, Tori. I was saying the same thing earlier. We need to be in the same space more often.
It's the holidays. We are in the same place at the same time.
Yes.
Yes. Also, she's listening to the conversation and she says, wow, listen, it's a big wow. It is. And we're still here.
Right.
We shouldn't be here.
We shouldn't. And it's interesting because after I kind of thought about this topic, I actually came across a TikTok where this woman, who is a Black woman, has a sister-in-law who is mixed race, but she's white passing, so she's fairly light. And they went to the grocery store together. The sister-in-law had just moved to town, so she had never been to this grocery store before, but they were just going out. The sister-in-laws do. And so the sister-in-law checks out. She has a conversation with the cashier, and the cashier is a white woman. They're laughing, talking. And so she pays for her things. She's with the check, steps aside. And then her sister comes up, the Black woman. And when she goes to pay, the cashier is asking for her ID, cross-checking the books to see if she had ever paid with a bad check or anything, giving this woman a hard time.
Wow.
When she didn't just do that with her sister-in-law. And I think this was kind of the moment which the lady was speaking about that touched her, because she was like, okay, in this moment, how do I handle this? Because if I get angry, now I'm the angry Black woman. But if I don't say anything, my daughter's already upset, and it's just showing that I can take this treatment. But actually her sister-in-law ended up, asking the clerk, well, what's going on? And the clerk was like, oh, this is standard procedure. And she was like, no, it's not, because you didn't do that with me. And so then, the cashier was getting all tripped up and oh, well, no, I'm just double checking and making sure. But the sister-in-law was standing up for her sister, and was like, well, no, that's not what you did with me. So I don't understand why you're doing that with her. And long story short, the manager came over and was like, yeah, this is not right. This is a customer that comes in all the time. Why are you treating her like this? All because she was brown. And the cashier didn't know that the first lady that she checked out was also Black. She just saw her as lighter and treated her completely different. Completely different.
Wow. And that, my friends, is colorism.
Yeah.
That's a deep story. I didn't
listen.
It
was. And, the woman may have been my complexion. She wasn't super, super dark. She wasn't super light, but she was obviously Black.
Right.
And the cashier was like, yeah, we need to make sure you haven't been in here bouncing checks, because I'm confused. Girl.
Wow.
We are in the 2020s. Why are we still like this?
Out of here. I see we got some comments coming through. I see we got Kawana James here in the building. How are you doing, Kawana?
Thanks for joining.
Yeah. She says, colorism is a curse and worse than racism. Self-hate on display. Black people are their own worst enemy. Jeez. She said it is a curse and worse than racism.
It is. And I can agree, because if you think about it, with racism, you have another race looking down on us, treating us poorly, because that's just how they feel. But to look at someone who is one of your people, y'all have experienced maybe not the same struggles, but y'all can come together because you have some shared struggles, some shared traumas. There are things as Black people that we've been through that we just understand. We can look at each other and be like, and you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But to be able to look at somebody and they treat you differently because you're darker, and you're supposed to be able to have that connection with them, that hurts.
It does.
If a white person were to treat me differently, I'd be upset, but
there's an expectation that
whatever
comes with that.
But for one of my people to do that to me, it's like, what's going on?
You're right. It really is worse, because like you say, if it happens, you don't want it to happen with a white person. You don't want to deal with racism. However, you're not surprised.
Right.
You're not shaken by it. But when it is in your own culture, and when we're doing this to each other, this is some madness. And that's why I say, when you hear the thing like, well, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, that has to be crazy. I can't even imagine hearing something like that.
Right.
And people are always assuming that a darker skinned person is more dangerous. For example, if you were to see, there's a white person who gets on an elevator and a light skinned person on there, they might have a different feeling if there was a darker person, and they kind of step away because they're assuming that he's dangerous,
Right.
just because he has darker skin. And that's on the racism side of things, right? Now on the colorism side of things, we have in our culture, it's like I said, it's I don't there's a fine line in this thing of colorism and bullying with the skin tones, because this might not fit into it. But I was thinking of this, and I will say it so that we can just kind of hash it out, because it is a difference. But oftentimes, excuse me, you have the lighter skin brothers, so it's different for men and women.
Yes, it is.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different because I feel like darker skinned men within our culture are considered they're considered stronger, masculine. You're going after them. They usually consider light skinned guys soft, this, that, and the other.
They're
and then
pretty boys.
Pretty boys. However, as we think about what colorism really is, that doesn't necessarily fall within the colorism. That really is a part of the bullying side of it, because colorism is not exactly that. You know what I'm saying? But we do have that too, which is still an issue. We just have so many issues within our society that are crazy. I see comments are still coming through. I see Ayo here in the house. Ayo Matasari, how you doing? She says, programmed that lighter skin is not threatening. Exactly. They're programmed to think that lighter skin is not threatening.
Right.
And that's outrageous, because I'm going to tell you something. Some of my favorite and some of the blackest people I know are light skinned, and they definitely consider them dangerous. If we're thinking about someone like a Malcolm X or Huey Newton, we're thinking about Angela Davis, people who, so when we have these stereotypes, you got to know that
it's just that it's a stereotype.
There you go.
But you don't have to fall into them.
Right. I also says that lighter skin is associated with favor and promotion and progress.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, it's that whole paper bag test that we have within our culture as well. We've heard about some of these things where women or people had to pass a certain paper bag test if they were going to be let into certain organizations and things of that nature. Colorism is real. It's real.
And you can even see it in just the way things are sold to us. Because if you look at, the color spectrum for nude, first of all, it's not really made for Black people. Let's start there. But if you look at it, there will be so many shade ranges for lighter skin. But the browner you get, the less shade ranges you get, and the not actual Black people brown that you get, like it's just some weird ashy green brown. And it's like, why is the spectrum so large? Like, even when it comes to makeup, selling clothes, it's just like, why can't there be enough for everybody? Like, I know the spectrum is wide when it comes to skin tone, so I know we can't color match everybody, but there should be enough to where somebody can find something if they need it or if they want to use it.
I agree.
It shouldn't be 12 shades from light skin to light skin, and then you get 4 shades from brown to dark skin, and we just got to fit in somewhere.
Right. And then, and the bigger thing, we know that colorism exists, but when we deny it, the denial of colorism, y'all got to stop this. Y'all got to stop this and not accept it. That's why the story that you told about, the grocery store experience, where, the lighter skinned Black lady who actually could pass for white, just had a totally different check writing experience from her. Was it a friend or a sister-in-law?
Her sister-in-law.
Her sister-in-law, who was right behind her. And she just had a totally different experience. She was being hassled. She, like her money wasn't good.
Right. And in that moment, her sister-in-law very well could have ignored the fact that was happening.
She could have.
But instead, she used the privilege that she saw she had to call out the injustice.
And that is what we have to do.
Right.
That's what we should be doing.
We got to stand up for each other.
You're right. Because you're right. I'm glad you said that, because she could have just, watched that experience and not say anything, because she knows that she has privilege and she's gotten away. She gets it. I don't really want to say gotten away with it, but she receives it. So that
Right.
is her norm,
Mm-hmm.
right? But she was very well, she recognized that she didn't like it. She wasn't going to stand for it. Like,
Exactly.
you're not going to do this in my face.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to do this,
With me standing right
here. And she just saw you. She saw that I wrote a check and you didn't ask me for any identification.
Right.
And she writes a check and you're asking her for like identification. The lady, didn't you tell me that she pulled out?
Yeah, she put out a book of like people who have written bad checks previously and was cross-referencing the lady. That's why she asked for her information, her ID. So she could, like, you just gonna assume that my check gonna bounce?
But she pulled out a book.
And the fact that there is a book.
The fact that there is.
Let's start there. The fact that there is a book.
Wow.
And she pulled it out. If you don't ring up these groceries and run this check through the machine so I can go.
This is horrible. Let's think about these type of things, because this happens. And I know this to happen because I have, like I said, I come from a family of multi shades in the family.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of families like mine, where there's a kid that's lighter than the next kids, and they want to know, well, how are y'all sisters? Why is she light skinned and you black?
Mm-hmm.
We all are black.
Right. And see, that's when I know people didn't pay attention in the biology class, when we had the genetics section, when we had to do the little Punnett squares, where you get the different letters. Like, some people might have 2 A's and 2 big A's. Some people might have a big A and a little A. Some people have like 2 little A's. It's like, our genetics are so interesting and they're so vast. Like, people can look very similar. People can look very different. I actually went to high school with a set of twins. They are twins, which means they have the same mom, same dad. And one is light skinned and one is darker skinned. And it's like, to me, it wasn't abnormal because you can tell that they're siblings.
Right.
And then once I knew they're twins, I was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I feel like to other people, that's like, well, how are y'all related? Like, oh, y'all must have something different. Like, no, we're actually twins. So even if you see siblings that aren't twins and it's like, oh, someone's darker, someone's lighter, like, that doesn't mean that they can't be. Genetics are interesting.
Let's ask the people a question. You guys chime in, because we want to make sure that you are definitely a part of this conversation.
Right.
And I had a question here that I wanted to ask you. How does colorism intersect with other forms of discrimination? Ooh. And how do these intersecting identities shape individuals' experiences? Y'all let me know, because I want to hear some of your experiences with colorism. I mean, you guys have jobs. You're out here. You're in a community. I know some of you. I see you out here watching. You work in spaces. You must work in spaces and see different things happening. What's really going on out here? And I could ask this question too: how can we, as a culture of people, begin to dismantle this? Or can we? Do you think that we can? I want to know that.
And, that's really interesting, especially the intersection, because it kind of goes back to what you're talking about with your hair. And, like I mentioned earlier, I've kind of had similar situations. I think a lot of times with colorism, we also comes texturism when it comes to being a Black woman and where you fall on that spectrum. Because we just assume, okay, lighter skin, finer hair or straight hair, or like that loose curly hair, which I love all kinds of curls. And then we think of darker skin and afros and thick hair and coarser hair.
Right.
And if you don't fit in that spectrum, or if you don't fit in those 2 boxes, it's like, oh, well, what are you?
Woo!
Where did you come from? What are you mixed with?
You're right. They want to know. So like, you cannot possibly have a skin tone that dark and your hair texture be that straight.
Exactly.
How did you do that?
Like, oh, how'd that happen? And it's crazy because I saw a girl who's lighter skinned, but she has thicker, coarse hair. Her afro is beautiful. And she was talking about how it took her until she got to college and she went to an HBCU to actually love her natural hair, because most light-skinned girls around her had straighter hair and finer hair, and hers didn't look like that.
Wow.
And so it took her going to college in HBCU to realize, like, okay, I can love my hair. My hair can be like this with the way that I look. And it's crazy.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the finer points that I can love, that we can cherish about HBCUs, is that, you know, we can go there and you're going to see all these different, you know, you're going to see the rainbow of Blackness.
Yes.
You know, that rainbow of culture and hair textures and style. And so you can really find your identity there. So
I agree.
That's a good story. That's a
Love
very
it.
good one. I don't know. You know, we got in here and we started talking. And you know what I forgot to do?
You forgot to play the intro.
I did.
Because you snuck up on us. That's what it was.
I did. So I need to do it.
We might as well.
We should. We back.
Had a little water break.
Matter of fact, we never even went anywhere.
We didn't. I was still right here the whole time.
We're talking about colorism, and it's a serious, serious topic.
Yes.
We got to do better.
We do, and I think we can.
And I want to say this: it definitely happens a lot in the Black culture with African American people, but it also happens in a lot of other races as well. It's happening in the Asian culture, in the Latino culture. We assume that they all have a same complexion, and they really don't.
They don't.
They come in the same hues and colors that we do. I've seen very, very dark Indians. I've seen dark, you know, Latinos, and they are dealing with colorism themselves. And in fact, something that just kind of, like I said, it breaks my heart. You know, it breaks my heart. It just makes me feel like I'm a softie, because it's a few things that just kind of give me that feeling, that tear jerking feeling, you know? So when I see that happening, it hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts. But what I was going to say is that in these other cultures, they're lightening their skin. This is really, really serious. There are skin lightening products that a lot of young girls are using so that they can be lighter and so that they can be accepted. And especially in these other cultures, in the Asian, the Latinos, they're lightening their skin because they're trying to get as close to this white that they can get. They need to be close to this privilege. I mean, who doesn't want privilege?
Right.
Like, who doesn't want privilege? I can understand that, but it's hurtful because we don't have to we shouldn't be having to deal with this.
Right. We shouldn't.
We shouldn't be putting value in the color or the tone of a skin. We shouldn't be doing that. I want to go over to the comments here. I see Ayo has another comment. She said, they praise the lighter skin as it is unspoken assimilation. They get support as borderline Caucasian or a low-key self-haters on an anti-Black team. Wow. She's right.
Yeah.
She's right. And I feel like a lot of people don't even want to have the conversation because a lot of people just don't want to be honest with themselves.
Right. I think to have the conversation, you definitely have to do a lot of self-reflecting and kind of, you have to be able to acknowledge the privileges you may or may not have, or the biases and prejudices you may or may not have, and like where you fall into that and how you play into it. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to hold themselves accountable.
Right.
They feel like, oh, if I don't say anything, then I'm not a part of the problem.
Right.
But if you're still acting on these things, you are a part of the problem.
They are. And like I said, and a part of that problem for me, which also ticks me off, is when light-skinned people they're just in freaking denial.
Yeah.
Just serious denial. So many conversations I've seen and I've heard when the topic of colorism come up, and when I hear that light-skinned person say, well, I they always used to call me yellow or this or half white or whatever the case may be. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, you got bullied.
Right.
Just if we're going to call that, we used to call it picking. Now it's called bullying. So that's a topic that we could talk about. But 9 times out of 10, everybody got picked at for something. You can't bring that up in this serious conversation of colorism. That's not the same thing. Just because somebody hurt your feelings is a totally different thing from someone being discriminated against for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Just people automatically thinking that you're naturally more educated, that you're smarter, that you're safer, you're gonna do a better job just
Mm-hmm.
because of the color of your skin, and that's not true.
Right.
There are a whole lot of light-skinned assholes out here.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Getting privileged for no reason other than the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
let's just be honest. And I feel like, to me, when I ask the question, how can we dismantle it? I mean, I feel like it's going to take a team effort, but I feel like a lot of that load is on light skinned people.
Mm-hmm.
We can't support that, and we shouldn't be supporting that. And I'll say this as well: as I was growing up and didn't realize that colorism was really a thing because of my family dynamics. The truth is, all of our family dynamics is like this. You got cousins and mamas, aunts, uncles. All of y'all are not the same skin color.
Mm-mm. Somebody somewhere else.
You're not. So I don't know what type of conversations. Who raised y'all? Who raised you?
And like you said, what conversations are we having?
What conversation? And for me, yes, I'm like, when you said that somebody asked you if your mother was white,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think that's so ignorant. And
I just didn't know it. I didn't know the definition of ignorant at the time because I probably would have called him that. I was a nice kid.
I really did, because I mean, I'm not even white passable.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm very obviously black, but they're saying that basically because they were looking at, well, your mom is so light and then you're
and then I'm
darker.
brown.
Right. And I'll tell you this, as a light-skinned, person, and it's so hard for me to even say this, to have this conversation, like, as a light-skinned person, but
Right.
we're having a conversation on colorism. But it still didn't occur to me that you, as my daughter, being a darker tone than I, would face certain discriminations that I didn't have to face. Like, it never even crossed my mind. Like, I always, I mean, I saw you as a beautiful person. Outside of being my child, you are a beautiful person, a very intelligent person. And so skin tone and the treatment that you may receive, it absolutely never crossed my mind. I never thought about it.
And I can say too, on the same hand, I never really thought about the fact that, there could be instances where you got privileges based off of your skin tone. Like, I just grew up knowing, like, listen, my mama is that woman. She gonna go do it. She gonna get it done. And I mean, you are, but I never thought about there really could be instances where people just say, you know what, she's light skinned, she's beautiful, we gonna let it slide. So I always grew up knowing, okay, I'm gonna be that woman. I'm gonna go get it. And I'm gonna get it done, not knowing that, like you said, I could be facing those things where it's like, okay, well, I am darker, and there could be somebody lighter than me that can come in and just get that spot based off of colorism. Like, that didn't occur to me,
Right?
Because I wasn't raised to look at it like that. And not saying that I was oblivious to the difference of skin tones, but I was really just living in a world of like, okay, I'm comfortable in my skin. I know me. I can see people for who they are.
Right.
And I'm just going to be a good person, be a hard worker, and learn and move through life. So, yeah. But I never really thought about that growing up.
Me either. I didn't. And, I've also been in situations where people wanted to date me because I was light skinned. Like, I knew that they had a preference of light skin. So those were people that I kind of dismissed.
Yeah, I will
Very
say
quickly.
I did learn that men had a preference for light-skinned women. Like once I got to like middle and high school, and
Mhm.
like people saw you as my mom, and everybody, oh my God, look at your mom. Oh my God, your mom, your mom. And I feel like in instances like I've had people and guys be my friend because they thought you were attractive, which is weird.
Wow.
But like, listen, because the way I have had to, oh my gosh, your mom, listen, you're a child. We are the same age. My mom is not interested in anything that you have going on. Let's relax. Like, it's not that deep.
Right.
Like, because I really do. I've known people, because I mean, you've been in the community for a really long time. So, like, I ended up meeting people in high school who probably knew you before they knew me.
Right. I
But then
work
they
with a
found out
lot of
I was
young
your
people.
child. And I'm like, oh, that's your mama? Oh, she's bad. I got two eyes. I can see.
Wow.
And it's just that's when I realized that light skin was a preference dating wise.
Right.
But even still, like you said, I kind of was like, okay, well, if that's your preference, or if you're obsessed with my mom, I'm just gonna put you on a list of people I'm gonna stay away from.
Exactly.
Because I don't want someone who's only gonna look at a particular like you don't even have to like me. But if you're only going to date somebody because of their skin tone, you're not somebody I want in my life at all.
Right. I agree. That's a problem.
Right.
That
Like
really is a problem.
that's
But
an issue.
I gotta tell you, it never crossed my mind. Like I said, I pretty much grew up that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to think that you all were raised that way to respect people
Right.
and not necessarily their skin tone or
Mm-hmm.
color. So I know that we don't have that issue, but because we don't have that issue, we still cannot ignore that it exists
Right.
because we're not living in a bubble.
No.
You're going to
not
go
at all.
somewhere and it is going to pop up. It's going to raise its head. And I will tell you, like I said, I will admit, I know that I have gotten indoors
Mm-hmm.
because of it. Colorism, and that's what it is. It has worked in my favor, you know?
Yeah.
But I again will say, what are you going to do? I never depended on it. I didn't feel like I had to receive something because of it, because I
Right.
also grew up knowing that whatever it is that gets you through the door, if you want to say it's your looks, if people are considering you a certain
Mm-hmm.
way, pretty privilege, colorism, whatever that could be.
Right.
But what do you do when you get in there?
Exactly. How do you stay?
How are you going to stay there? So these are things that you can't bank on. So I never put any stock in that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, the same way that a dark skinned person can't do anything about their skin color, I too cannot do anything about my skin color, but I am not going to ignore and pretend that it hasn't had advantages for me.
Right.
Right. And I am also going to be conscious of that. And I am going to be with my sisters and my people around me. And I'm not going to stand for,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look to people who can get the job done.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's really tough, and I know it's really really tough for young girls when you say that you're going into that middle school year, those high
Mm-hmm.
school years, you're like really trying to find your identity, and and you're starting to realize that hey, boys are looking at me different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not having the same. I'm not getting the same attention that a
Right.
light skinned girl would get. And, these girls aren't necessarily the nicest girls or necessarily the smartest girls
Yeah.
because, I found that colorism have often led within that age demographic that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where a lot of that mean girl stuff starts
Yes.
happening.
It does.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's traumatizing to young people.
Yeah, it is.
How can you relate to that situation of this mean girl situation when it comes to colorism? Like, what do you think that is, or how do you think that come about?
Yeah, so I will say, like going into school, I wasn't too aware of it. Like when I was really young, like elementary school, I had a very diverse friend group, especially since, I started school in Trinidad. So a lot of my friends looked very different. And that's what I was used to. And then coming to South Carolina and going to the schools that I went that were predominantly Black, everybody to me at the time looked like me. It was a lot of us. And so I didn't really start noticing like the different mean girl stereotypes until I got to like middle and high school, which kind of took me aback because, like you said, with our family dynamic, like you're my mom, I've never seen you be mean to anybody based off of their skin tone. I've never really seen you be mean to anybody. Like I've seen you stand your ground.
Right.
But, and then even with my aunts, I've never seen them be mean to anybody based off of their skin tone. So when, people are like, oh yeah, she's light skinned, she's mean, or oh, she's stuck up. Like hearing people talk like that, I'm like, well, why do you say that? Oh, because she light skinned. I know she thinks she cute. And so that kind of was like, well, that's interesting. And then I kind of experienced some of it, like I've had light skinned girls be mean to me for whatever reasons, but I still didn't let that make me hate or make me mad at every light-skinned person.
Right.
It's like, if you decided you want to be mean to me, that's you. You just so happen to be light-skinned.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to have this preconceived idea, because that's not what I grew up with. And I have a light-skinned mom. Like, she didn't instill that in me. I've never seen her do that to others. So I know it's not everybody.
Right.
And I've seen it happen to other girls. And I was the girl like, you know what? I'm gonna be friends with you. Like, she can be mean to you, but I'm gonna show you that everybody's not mean. We're gonna be friends.
Right.
Because I think you're actually a good person. And so I just learned to curate my friend groups based off of people that were like-minded, not people that just look like me.
Exactly.
Well, let's think alike and let's stick up for each other.
I hear you. I see Ayo has another comment here. She says that to the people, or I guess we're talking about colorism here,
Right.
but she's saying, to the point, folks want racially ambiguous children to avoid maltreatment. That's sad. That's sad. Instead of teaching them value, self-love, giving them love and making them feel that love. Because listen, they're going to, like I said, they're going to deal with something out here. But as it pertains to colorism, we got to stop it.
Right.
We got to stop it.
Right. Because I feel like it does, like you said, we can't not acknowledge it because it happens. But I think if we have more conversations about it, like within our households, we prepare our kids for it, and then we teach them not to play into it.
There you
like,
go.
This is what happens in the world, but you can be a part of the change.
There you go.
But if I don't tell you about it, or if I just let you be oblivious to it, or if I let you play into it, well, at some point you're going to be too far gone, and you might not even be partaking in colorism on purpose.
Right.
But it's like you said, it manifests.
It does.
So then it just becomes ingrained in you, and you fall into the different stereotypes.
You're right. You may not know that because it is so ingrained in our culture, but I feel like you're right. The conversations, we need to have the conversations so that people can really understand what it is, so that they can be clear of what it is. And so I feel like within the family dynamic, you let them know, okay, this is what happened. These things are happening out here. But this is not right.
Right. Because I feel like it could be the same, because we want to teach our kids about racism and how they're going to be treated for being Black, being in the world. So we do need to talk about colorism. Like, yeah, because I feel like it hurts more when you figure out, or when you are on the opposite side of colorism, like when you're on the receiving side of colorism. Would that be the right side? When you're darker skinned and you're getting the hurt from colorism, and you didn't know that other Black people would treat you that way. It's like, I expect this from other races because I've been taught about racism and I understand what it is and how it works. But I feel like it just hurts different when it comes from your own people.
You're right, because I think we had Kawana made a comment similar to that. She said colorism is a curse and worse than racism. She said self-hate on display.
Yeah,
Black people are their own worst enemy. They are. This colorism is when you really are being your own worst enemy.
Yeah,
you really are. Start feeding into that stereotype.
Right.
Teach your young people what it is. Be willing to identify it. All right. Identify it, own up to it, and stop doing it.
Right.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
Because I love all the spectrums of us. All our Black is beautiful.
I love everybody Black.
You understand?
As Issa Rae would say, I'm rooting for everybody Black.
Everybody. Okay.
Everybody.
Okay. So even if I can't tell, and then you identify with me and let me know I love you.
Exactly. You give me the head nod. Oh, we here.
We right here to the blackest of black, which
Mhm.
is so freaking beautiful to me.
Yes, it is. And you know, when we were at the grocery store the other day, the girl who was
At
doing our
checkout.
at our checkout, she had on a, granted it's cold.
Ooh, this is a good story. Yeah, tell this
Oh
story.
yeah. I was like,
Because
wait, another one?
yeah, well, because I didn't think about it in this term. I know where you're going with it. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah.
Tell the
So
people.
it was a little cold, but she had on a beanie and a face mask. And you know, we're going through checkout, and she was talking to the other girl at checkout counter, and that made me look up. And I could only see about this,
You could
this
only see
portion
her
of her
eyes.
face, like her eyes and
Because she had the beanie down here
and the
and the
mask up.
mask here. So you could only see
And she was
eyes.
very dark skinned.
Yeah.
But I could tell that she was beautiful, like would radiate beauty. And part of me, like, I had to make myself not stare at her because I didn't want her to feel bad. And I could already tell, like, she was hiding. Like, you could tell she was hiding herself.
I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I
You
felt
could
like she
tell.
was hiding because, like, she is really, really dark. And when we're talking on the spectrum that we are beautiful, all of the spectrums, she is really on the dark spectrum. But her skin tone, it's
It was so
it's
rich
magnetizing
and beautiful. And part of me wanted to just ask her, like, could you take your mask down? Like, I just want to see your face.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to bring too much attention to her. I didn't want to make her feel awkward or make her feel bad. But it hurt me to see that she didn't feel her beauty and that she was hiding. And so when I noticed that, I think we both did. We at least engaged with her.
Yeah, we
like
absolutely.
I definitely, like, oh, thank you, kind of talked to her and made sure to make eye contact with her, like look at her. And I wanted her to feel like in my mind and my body, I was telling her she was beautiful without telling her.
But she felt it.
I hope
Because
she did.
well, how I know that she felt it is because, like I said, the way we communicated with her, and then like the tone in her voice when she was communicating back with us, like she knew that we saw her.
Right. And I saw her, but I wanted to see her because I mean, I could only see her eyes and I just know she was so beautiful, but it just hurt to see that she was hiding herself.
Right.
And we can't be oblivious. We know she was hiding herself because
she literally
was really dark and she hasn't been made feel like her skin tone is acceptable.
I'm sure. Now, see, and that's where we have to acknowledge that, because guess what? We don't have to think that we know that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can't act like we don't know why she was hiding herself.
Right.
Like that's why.
Wow. Wow.
But if I see her again, we're going to become friends.
And that was just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still happening, guys. And there's something that you can do about it. Admit it. Right. Don't have these stupid conversations. If you're light skinned, talking about, they call me light bright, they call me red bone, they call me yellow, this and that. No, okay. Yeah. Get over that. But you do have a privilege. Admit that. Do something about it. Teach your children, if you have children, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, any young person coming up after you, let them know that they got to have some character. Because your light skin does not make you intelligent. Your light skin does not make you better. The same way that it does not make a person better or more intelligent because they're white.
Right.
And essentially that is what they're saying, because you're close to white. They want to make you feel like you're white. Well, that doesn't make me feel good because you feel like make me feel like I'm close to white. I don't feel good about that. I don't even want to be white.
Right.
Never wanted to be. I'm glad that I'm black. The little bit that I got that can be recognized, I'm happy for that.
Right.
Okay. So let's stop that. Let's feel good about ourselves. Let's feel good in our skin. Our young people need to feel good in their skin.
Right.
All right.
And I think, like you said, feel good in our skin. And I think when we're teaching, self-love, and we're teaching our young girls to love themselves, we need to teach them to love themselves wholly without putting someone else down just because they don't look like them. Like, yes, it is. We love you, love yourself, because, that's good. You want to do that. It's going to help you get really far. It'll help you not get broken in this world, but know that you can also love other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just like I said, all spectrums in everybody's family. My family is not unique. My daughter and I situation is not unique.
It's not.
Okay. So y'all just need it is unique.
Well, yeah, because it's us.
We are the brown South girls. And when we say we are the brown South girls, we're talking about what?
We're brown and from the South.
And every shade of it. You understand me?
Exactly.
Every shade of that brown. Okay.
Mhm.
So feel yourself and know yourself. It's been over an hour.
It
has been.
You know, when we're together, I don't have my screen, so I can't look at the time. So I just really be talking.
Yes, we have been having the conversation, and I want to thank everybody who joined the conversation. I see some of you out here watching. We appreciate you.
Mhm.
Thank everybody who made the comments. Thank you, Tori. Thank you so much, Ayo and Kawana, for joining the conversation with us and taking the time to put your comment in.
Mhm. I see we got another one that just popped up.
We
too.
do? Well, we're going to go ahead and read it because we already over.
Yeah, and I can't see it from here because I was trying to read what it said. So I was hoping you'd put it on the screen.
I'm going to put it up. What? LOL, love your black. It's a melanin investment from the direct hand of God. Yummy, hun.
See, I knew that was a good one.
We gonna leave that up for y'all. That's a message for everybody. Love your black.
Right.
You understand me? Love it. That's a melanin investment.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That needs to be on a shirt.
We gonna make a shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right, y'all. We had the conversation. We opened up the conversation. You got to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
We just spark conversations here. You take this into your living room. You take this among your friend group and continue the conversation.
Right. Talk about it.
Mm-hmm. You should.
Might as well.
Now, it's been over an hour.
It has.
Mm-hmm. So what we got to do?
I guess we got to let the people go on about their Sundays.
Y'all going to have to go on about your Sunday.
Or rain day if you're in the Carolinas.
If you're in the Carolinas, you're going on about your rain day. You are. We're going to be back here at what time? When we going to do this again? Well, not exactly this. Not in the same room. But when we going to do the show again?
Well, if I can get my calendar up, because,
bring your calendar up. I don't know why she's not ready.
Y'all know I'm prepared every other Sunday. Our last Sunday is June 25th.
June 25th.
That's after Juneteenth.
Yes.
So that's a day. Y'all need to extra love y'all black before we come back.
Yes. Juneteenth, Father's Day, we'll be doing some celebration. Mm-hmm. Love on our black fathers out here. Yes. Love them. You have no excuse. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week. Do you know?
I don't know yet, but we're going to figure it out.
Y'all got any ideas?
Yeah, if y'all got some suggestions, if you got a conversation that you want to have, but you don't know how to start it, let us know. We'll put it together.
We will.
And we'll bring it to you.
And we will.
Live.
The last Sunday of the month.
6 p.m.
It's time for us to go. Time to go. What I need to do now? Go ahead and
cue us out, and y'all need to be there or be square. And did y'all know, because I don't know if y'all saw our video yesterday on Facebook, but be there or be the square means if you're not there, you're not around.
You know what? Let me hurry up and get out of here before you say something else.